Howdy folks, how we doing tonight? Right off the rip, I'm going to tell you this is a trigger warning, okay, for the people that bitch and say that I talk too much in my monotone voice and I just keep talking and talking and I give out too much detail and they just want the story and move on. This is probably not the website for you. This is a research website. So if that's what you're looking for, you want to see a blurry picture or something like that, then I suggest that you probably should go to like a Bigfoot fan page. But to the rest of you, what we're going to talk about tonight is how, if you just keep digging, you can take a bad cast, at the time, the only cast that we thought we had, a print that we thought we could pour, and then in the light of new information, how these two can help each other. So I pulled these. These are the newest, freshest prints that we cast here. Okay, went ahead and pulled them, and we're going to see what we can draw out of this. So first and foremost, I think it's obvious these two prints are the same individual. You have a right foot, you have a left foot. That is certainly the same exact individual. So we got two casts of a right and a left foot of this individual. Next thing, just to get this out of the way, we're right at about 18 inch in length, and up at the top we're right at 9 inches. 9 inch width, 18 inch length, and it's a 5 inch heel. There you go. So now, remember, when I cast this print, this was a really hard print to cast because the individual stepped into the ridge at this angle. So imagine a print and trying to pour something like this. But now in the light of new information, what can we ascertain from this? Well, if you just look at the overall, if you just study them, I don't think it's a stretch to say this is the same individual as this. There's enough detail. The overall length is really close. Even though this one is a longer cast. I was talking about this with Eric and we were kind of spitballing, and he said, yeah, well, when you're stepping into a ridge like this, you very well might have to account for a slide. And I think that's what we're seeing right here. I think that the overall length is actually part of a slide. Even when you just look at the whole thing, it kind of looks like it slid. But if I take this, compare the width, I think it's safe to say that this is the same individual. And why that is extremely important to this is this cast was the print closest to the eyewitness sighting. This is the closest print that we found to where they say they saw it. So now in the light of new information, we keep looking down the driveway. All of a sudden, now we can kind of paint a picture here. I do not think that's a stretch at all. And the next thing I want to talk about here is this, my pointer, this print was also cast beside the driveway and the ditch line. And I mean, it's obvious that is not the same individual. Why is that important? Well, it's important because it helps to clarify what we were saying that night. It really felt that there was more than one individual. Just by the way the rocks were hitting the cabin, it really felt like there was one over here and one over here. I don't know if you heard that on cue, but something just hit the cabin while I'm talking. So, safe to say we have two individuals, right? Now I added this one. This is from a year or two ago. I'll have to go back and look. But this is the cast that I found in my pond. And it really looked like something was using a sapling and getting the eggs where the fish were spawning, pulling out and eating the eggs off this branch. And again, I don't think that's a stretch. If you imagine a print is only as good as the soil that's stepping in, that's pretty close. There's a couple things we can do. You see the round here? See how round that is? I'm assuming that's a big toe. Look how close that matches. Now, yeah, this is a little bigger, it's a little more defined, but you can also turn it this way and you can see how much weight. Look at the weight of that. Look at the weight of that. Now look at the weight of this. Stepping into a much harder soil, or drier, however you want to talk about it. So, and just in comparison, how that's a heavy critter there. So, I mean, it's just food for thought. If it's a couple years old and this one's a little bigger, but generally you're seeing a pattern here. This was a harder soil it stepped in. This could very well be the same individual. It could be the same visitor. There's a lot of things about it that are similar. So I just wanted to throw that one in there as well. And then lastly, I threw this one in here because I think it's important. People talk about bears. Bears have a tendency to step into their own footprints. And this is a bear print. And it's a perfect example of that exact scenario. So you got to kind of start knowing your critters. A black bear, hind foot on average is about 8 inches on average. We're at 9. If you figure that's a claw right there, sorry, that's a claw right up there. Bring it back to at least here. Look, pretty close, pretty close. Overall, that puts you right around 12 inches. Now, what I want to show you here is, look here. Here's the line. See that V? And you see this line, I highlighted it. That's exactly how bears step. His hind foot, and they turn their front paw like this. And that's what you're seeing. That is his front paw. You can even see his nails right here. And again, if you kind of know your tracking, a bear's front paw is about the size of your fist. Pretty close, right? Now, why that's important here is because there's a detail from this that is completely lacking. This right here. If you look at this, so here is the bear. Okay, you can even see some of his nail there. It's obvious that is a nail there. This feature, you see the feature, is absolutely non-existent with this, any of these prints. You do not have that feature. This is a hind foot. This is a hind foot with a bear step into its own track. So that's one way you can tell. Now I'm gonna throw this at you too because it's important. You know, a lot of this stuff's happening on my property. So I'm always aware of my own prints. My own prints are out here. It's obvious, you know. If I feel like that might be my own print, I would never cast it. And I think it's obvious. You can see what I look for is the length. I look at the heels, but the biggest giveaway is the toe area. Look at these. Even on this print, there's no way that's my print. And I self-check myself. That's the first thing I do. And if it's close to mine, I'm like, I will just assume it's mine and I'll move on. But you can see it's the width of the toes that is a dead giveaway that it's not yours or anybody. There's nobody around that has a foot this wide that I know of. And we don't have Shaquille O'Neal out here, and I think you should do some research. I don't think his footprint is, I think his is 16, if I remember off the top of my head. I think he has a 16-inch print. Has a giant shoe, but his actual size of his foot. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure this is way bigger than even Shaquille O'Neal's feet. So there you go. It's detailed. It's kind of lengthy discussion, but if we want to research and we want to learn from each other, we've got to throw it all out here and talk about it in depth. You're more than welcome to comment and say, hey, I don't agree with this, or hey, I think you're right on the money, or whatever. That's why we're here. And for the people that don't like all this, they can move on, and there's plenty of other sites that are a joke. You know, this site I've always dedicated to what you find out in the field. So I hope you all have a great weekend, and I hope you can use this somehow. And just remember, just because your first print isn't that great, you never know what's around the corner that might shed light on something and put it all together and help you piece it together. So even if it doesn't look that important, it might be worth noting. It might be worth casting, because 2 weeks later, you might find the individual that you're looking for. Y'all take care.